also have a question coming in from King Miko concerning Gene Smith, and this was alluded to by one of you, whether he's in talks with Nebraska for the Michigan week.
I actually got a call from a buddy of mine in Nebraska. We were already on the air, so I wasn't able to take it.
Put him on speaker.
I know what I have to do after the show, but I think that I think you have to keep all of your options open, but I think that you also have to focus on the next game. They have to get through Michigan State. This is all moot point if they don't play this Michigan State game. I know that it's not a case of where Gene paying attention to the team is going to keep people from coming down with COVID or anything like that happen, but you can't get too far ahead of yourself. You get through this game and then maybe you continue some conversations that you kind of start at the latter point of this week. I'm highly skeptical that Ohio State Michigan happens at this point. I really am. So I think you have to have some things in play, but you can't get too far down the road. You have to stay focused on the task at hand.
Texas A&M, Ohio State. So the Aggies do play Auburn this week. They're decent. They're not great. They got their doors blown off by Alabama by 29, and it could have been much worse. Texas A&M will play two sub-500 teams after that in Tennessee and Ole Miss, I believe, is the rundown. Yeah. And Ohio State will be playing a Michigan State team that has not looked impressive, but they did then beat Northwestern last week and could have a game against, let's say, if they can get Wisconsin. I would say that those two games trump the three games played by Texas A&M. And they're already fourth. They're considered the fourth best team by the selection committee.
My tweet that I put out a while ago, one of our writers did a story about Desmond Howard's comments and that Ohio State's not in the top four. And I said, I think it's Tony, this is his line that he's used any number of times too. I mean, everybody who has ever tried to assess the playoff and who should be in the Final Four, the Final Two, or when it used to be the BCS, I think we've always gone by the provision that a loss to a top 10 team is certainly much more impressive than a win over a top 10 team. In fact, I don't even know how you can quantify one over the other. I don't know how anyone in their right mind would consider a win over a top 10 team to be more impressive than a loss to a top. I mean, that says it all. When you've lost, I mean, for you to beat a top 10 team, that's a hell of an accomplishment. But when you've lost to a top 10 team, man, does that really tell you how good you really are? I mean,
that puts hair on your chest.
Yes, it does.
I was going to say, the way that A&M lost 52-24 to Alabama in week 2, oh boy, let me tell you, it built a lot of character. It's worth a lot of points. I mean, they already took playoff merchandise to print because of that. Because
their whole problem with this
loss means everything.
Their whole problem with this is that Texas A&M beat Florida. Florida is the team that they really could prop up because Florida's got the quarterback and the high-powered offense and everything else. Texas A&M, I mean, my God, you put that LSU game on last week, you could put that on a loop, and that would be a cure for an insomnia. I mean, that would put you out in 6 minutes, punt, 3 plays punt, 3 plays punt. I mean, it was pathetic. So
was it Kellen Mond or was it Nate Stanley out there? I don't know.
Hard to say.
It was Kellen Mond. It was Kellen Mond. I wouldn't want to insult Nate Stanley like that. 11 for 34. That was a legit 11 for 34. I watched just about every play of that game, and it was similar to Texas A&M's scoring output against Vanderbilt, of all teams, when they scored 17 against mighty Vandy. Texas A&M's a good team. They're very talented, but yeah, they're a mess on offense, and they would get into a game where their defense could only hold so long against Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson, fill in the blank, and it's going to be, 31-10. Because they do have a good defense, but they're a mess on offense. They can't throw the ball, and we saw another display of it. We've seen many. And as Steve pointed out, the committee's in a bit of a mess because if Florida beats Alabama and Texas A&M does nothing. But let's say they even improve and win decidedly against. I diss them to a certain extent, but some decent teams, and they've got Auburn coming up. So, and if Ohio State can't play or only plays one game, they've boxed themselves into lifting 3 SEC teams into the top 4.
Well, I think if Florida beats Alabama in the SEC championship game, they will then jump Texas A&M. I just wonder what that means for Ohio State if, say, Notre Dame and Clemson split.
2 SEC teams, 2 ACC teams. There are already forces at work who are trying to do that. I mean, why the Big Ten even and the Pac-12 by lesser extent even bother coming back if that was always the goal, to put 2 from the SEC and 2 to the ACC in there? That's why I don't watch that morning garbage. I mean, just a bunch of dumb opinions. And all right, yeah, I'm starting to get angry now. Maybe I wait for a second.
Yeah,
Use the anger.
Yeah,
Let it flow through you.
I don't think it's that cut and dried. I think, I don't know. I do believe Clemson is going to beat Notre Dame. Clemson is going to beat Notre Dame the second time around with Trevor Lawrence playing. And, at that point, man, I don't think Florida beats Alabama. I just don't know of a way that happens. I mean, I get Kyle Trask. It could be a 50-40 type game. But I just don't see that happening. I mean, I could be wrong, but
look at the Ole Miss game. I mean, Ole Miss put up a lot of points against them. It would have to be that type of shootout, and where Lane Kiffin's team came up short because service was broke, and then Ole Miss kind of had to get out of what it was that was working, and then then Alabama got up by a couple of possessions and lights out at that point. I don't know. I don't know if Florida is multiple enough on offense to be able to get past Alabama. I think you really need to be a multiple type of offense team, and I don't see that out of the Gators. But I've been wrong about them every step of the way this year, so I'm no Gator expert.
Well, and there's no telling who would be out for that game, who might be missing. So I think it's something Ohio State people should be concerned about. But again, if Ohio State is 6-0, I would think that they would make it, but if Alabama is 9-1 or whatever, I don't see them dropping past 4, having lost to the number 5 team when Alabama has been number 1 for most of the year. It's just, I would be very surprised if the committee left an SEC team out, left one of those 2 teams out in that scenario. Maybe then Notre Dame is the odd man out for having only beaten a Clemson that didn't have 4 or 5 starters, if they lose the ACC championship game. I don't know.